I had a friend, let's call her Amanda. We were very close from forever. But, a new girl came in our class, let's say she's called Diane. Diane was sweet and we three got along, but she started taking Amanda for herself and leaving me behind. After a long battle with myself, I finally let them go. But, as we were in the same class, it was hard. I was always behind them. I always felt like that, I always found myself standing right behind them. It had been hard, yes. I had tried my best to get over it. But then, I remembered everything. About every day Amanda used to talk about how awful Diane was, how narcissistic, selfish, etc., and I just felt like I couldn't let my BFF with someone so toxic. So awful. Wasn't it my duty, as a friend, to help her? So I taught Diane how to behave. I made her go through so many lessons. It had taken so long. But, finally, it worked. Though, I was disappointed when Amanda came to my call and was so sad. I asked her what's wrong and she kept calling me a monster, sick and all kinds of names. She kept her eyes locked to the body in front of her, still alive, but barely breathing. Barely the woman she was. She was full of scars, of blood, and even parts missing. Like her eyes. I knew Amanda wouldn't understand, but everything had a reason behind. I could go all day about meanings, but I couldn't get over Amanda's scream as she tried to get Diane and leave, but Diane just fell on the ground, and fell so hard that the last drops of blood she had left were gone. She was dead, for sure. Sitting in a pool of her own blood, with parts missing, and being just a body, nothing more. I smiled and looked at Amanda and told her how much I missed her and that Diane was so toxic, she needed to be a better person. I told her how I took the role as a teacher for Diane, and she was very responsive. She should have been proud. However, Amanda didn't listen. Instead, she called me names, again, and an asshole, then said I was the one who caused Diane's death. But, I don't agree. Amanda was the one that let her fall. It was her fault Diane fell and died. So, what do you think? Am I the asshole?
My girlfriend and I have been dating for about 3 years by now. For the sake of keeping her anonymous, I will refer to her as Claire. See, Claire and I were doing great. We both had good jobs and big plans ahead together. I was even going to propose to her a couple of months ago. But then, one night, we got into a car accident. I still think it was the fault of the other guy, but this isn't what I am here to talk about. Long story short, Claire doesn't talk to me anymore. She doesn't do anything these days besides sitting on the couch and glaring at me. I tried to be a good boyfriend and stayed with her. I know that she doesn't have any living relatives to take care of her. And I didn't stay with her out of pity or guilt. I stayed with her because I loved her. But with each passing day, it seems she doesn't care about any of my hard work. She doesn't eat or take care of herself anymore. The stench in our apartment is unbearable and her skin just keeps turning more and more green. I am trying, guys. I really am. But it feels like I am fighting a losing battle. I still love my girlfriend, but I feel it might be time to go our separate ways. After all, it seems that she was much happier in that hole I had to get her out of. So, am I the asshole for wanting to break up with my girlfriend?
Two months ago, my husband started acting really odd. He would be gone for hours at a time, then come home in a good mood, but slowly it would deteriorate and he would be upset again. I started going to other places and when I got back, he'd be even more pissed than before. I would hug him and he'd act like he didn't feel it and ignore me. I would kiss his cheek and he'd ignore me then too. One night, he started crying and said he wished I'd leave him alone already, because he doesn't want me to be suffering anymore. But I still stuck around, until the night I saw him digging in the backyard and digging up fresh soil, exactly where I'd planted my flowers a few days ago. And what I saw made me angry, my dead body, rotting under my flowers. And suddenly it made sense, but I still wanted to stay by his side. So, am I the asshole for wanting to stay? I have known my girlfriend since college, and we started dating a year or two after we graduated. Let's call her Lexi. Lexi and me have a good relationship, or at least I thought. We spent a lot of time together, watching movies and cooking and stuff. I'm pursuing higher education in computer programming, after quitting my long-term job as a sales manager, while Lexi was a personal shopper. Now, money is a bit tight, especially because we live in the city, but we make it work. We're both quite frugal and I have a lot of savings from my days as a sales manager. Still, Lexi took on quite a lot of clients in an attempt to give us more spending money. It meant we didn't see each other as much, but we tried to make things work. Now, a couple months ago, my brother, we'll just call him Dean, mentioned that he had a terrible sense of style, and was wondering if Lexi could work with him to help him shop. I mentioned this to Lexi, who was overjoyed. She had always enjoyed spending time with Dean, and I guess I know why, now. I have always been protective of Dean, so when I found lingerie in his dorm, I may have overreacted. I sat him down and told him what I found. I said that his sex life was none of my business, but as an older sister, I thought it was slightly irresponsible to sleep with someone you weren't dating when you were still in college. He flipped out and started screaming at me. I told him to calm down, because his roommate and other people on his floor were here. He wouldn't listen, and started throwing stuff at me and demanded I leave. Well, he ended up throwing his iPad at me, and the photo app was open, and what did I find but screenshots of Lexi? Very obviously sexual pictures of Lexi. I was furious. But not at Dean. Lexi was a full 10 years older than him, and she had told me that she wasn't attracted to men romantically, and I didn't want her leading him on. I immediately apologized to Dean and told him that I misread the situation. He calmed down but still told me to get out, and that we would talk later. I agreed. The only problem is, he wants to talk with me and Lexi. How do I break the news that she's decomposing in my freezer? So, am I the asshole for getting revenge on my girlfriend for sleeping with my brother? I had a friend. Let's call her Annie. Annie had the prettiest green eyes and long brown hair that seemed to flow down her back. And even better, she was mine, and only mine, and no one else could steal her. One day I went over to Annie's house. The whole time I sat on her bed. My eyes glided over to her phone, where a notification popped up on the screen. It was an Instagram message from someone named Sophie X. Haha, how have you been? I looked over to Annie, who froze. Who was that? I asked. It's just a friend, Annie replied. I swear that's it. Rage filled inside me. You're going to replace me, aren't you? I screamed. And before I knew it, I was on top of her, hands wrapped tightly around her neck. Her green eyes widened. I looked down at her as life faded out of her eyes. That's what she got for being a traitor. I looked back at her limp and lifeless body. She was mine, and only mine. And she won't ever be anyone else's. I opened her Instagram and typed back, "No worries, I've been good, smile." Then I dragged her body to my car, took her back to my room, where she laid limply in the corner of my room. She's mine and only mine, and no one else can have her. So, am I the asshole for killing my friend because she tried to replace me? My partner was adopted. When we met, he never talked about his past. Every time I tried to talk about it, he shut down and got upset. But I got the feeling it bothered him not knowing anything about his birth family. He was adopted young after all. And why wouldn't he want to know? By now, we've been married 13 years. We're raising 4 lovely children. And even though he may not know much about his past, he tells me he can see into his future through our kids. Anyway, I decided to do a DNA test for his birthday. He just so happens to sleep with his mouth open, and he's a really deep sleeper, so it was easy to swab and get a sample. I know people typically just give the kit, but he is a procrastinator and I wanted him to be able to see them without going through the anxious waiting game. When he opened his gift, instead of the surprise and excitement I expected, he got really mad. He started screaming, "What did you do, why, and what the hell?" After he threw the box into the wall, he locked himself in our room and didn't speak to me for 3 days. After he calmed down, he asked if we could talk. He told me I had no right to invade his background like that. Honestly, after hearing it out, I see how I crossed a line. I apologized and he thankfully forgave me. But earlier the police were at our door asking if they could come inside. Asking about a DNA test. Just a few questions. And now he won't speak to me again. He even claimed I had destroyed his future. I think he is taking this way too serious, and I must say, I find it to be a bit annoying. So, am I the asshole for trying to surprise my husband for his birthday?